This is the thing I hear from all women nowadays, and I'll just say it outright. Where are all the masculine men? The second you meet them, you run and hide. It's not easy to be with a real man. It's not. Most women say they want a high-value alpha male. They don't. They've been trained to want men that lie to their face. How many men do you know now can walk away?
From me?
Yeah.
Oh, none.
And there it goes. It's your problem, is that most men are going to resort to manipulation and hurting you one way or another in order to get you to be what they want you to be. And then when you ask them if they're aware of their capacity, they'll play this weak crybaby shit. And this is not just for very few men. It's for, unfortunately, a majority of men.
Yeah.
And of course there's a world where women are looking to security outside of men. But guess what that happens? Why do you think that happens? It's, for example, you look at a young boy and you're not telling them to go for responsibility. That will happen. You look at a young woman and you tell them you don't need a man. That is the worst thing you could tell a young woman.
Yeah.
Because you are teaching them to not pay attention to the quality of man that they need. So you f them over and you f men over, because now it's about conquering women, not about protecting them. And now women don't even know what kind of men they want. And then when they meet the man that they want, which is what I was trying to make very clear earlier, men are scary.
And they're not willing to give up their old ways for the man that they don't know that they want.
Yes, and by the way, you can even blame social media pornography in a world where you don't need to show up to all of the insecurities that you see in men nowadays.
I also think that there is an aspect of a hurt feminine in which they would much rather prefer a man that is sweet, easily controllable, and that they themselves can manipulate. I can control certain things about you that you don't like, and you are so unwilling to leave me that you'll let go of yourself and become what I want.
That's its own form of manipulation and tactic.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting how you mentioned that, is that more and more women are finding themselves being a mother to their boyfriends.
Yeah.
And they're not even confronting the insecurities behind why they do that.
Yeah.
They think it's just like, oh, this is just how I like to give love. And it's like, no, it's so that they don't show up for themselves. Because if women were truthfully more selfish, they would be more kind.
Yeah.
And in the name of selflessness, and I'll do this for him, they become the one thing they don't want to be, self-destructive and destructive in general.
And they also lose respect for him.
Oh, of course. I mean, the
man.
respect is already gone, but that's a perfect opportunity to control a man, right? Because if you don't respect him, what ends up happening is you begin to realize that you have nothing to lose around him. And if you don't respect him, more than likely he doesn't respect himself. So your ability to use him, and in fact degrade him, you get to do whatever the you like.
Yeah, whatever.
And the
you
worst
like.
part is you don't get to grow up, and neither does he.
Especially if you have a high-paying job and you're a boss babe. Like, you don't need that boy. You just buy him things.
You know how crazy that is? I met a girl the other day.
They do call it love.
And they call it love. I met a girl the other day who was this like world-class coach. I was like, oh, what are you doing tonight? And she's like, oh, I'm just busy. I'm like, busy? We had a great date the other day. You want to see me or not? And she goes, okay, well, I'll tell you. I'm having a guy come over and wash my dishes for me. He's like a really rich CEO. And this girl's wealthy too. And I was like, I'm like, do you think this is harmless? And she's like, yeah. And that told me everything I needed to hear, right? And the same thing goes for men in relationship to porn. Do you think that's harmless? The lack of consciousness behind the actions is a byproduct of people not having a value system. How can people improve themselves if there aren't ideals or something that we are pursuing that is good? Everything, I mean everything, including God, becomes a protective mechanism for people not to confront these insecurities. Because even their own environment isn't theirs, their beliefs. They've adopted those beliefs to avoid confrontation and conflict. What we are as humans is jogging. Like, you came here on planet Earth and you need to grow. And you're going to avoid conflict, resistance, and the path of, I guess, say, the discovery, which is going to feel like a dark hall. You can't see your next steps, but that's exactly how we find who we are. I don't think most people will have love, number one. I don't think that most people's awareness will span outside of people's behaviors. I don't think that men are strong enough to communicate the things that they're upset about in relationships. I don't think that they're connected enough to their values to actually allow a woman to understand that they're coming from a place of protection. And I think that even worse, are women willing to let that go for love?
I don't think that they could.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The man doesn't even know that there's a possibility to feel something that they don't know exists yet.
You can kind of like zoom it out a little bit, you know, an eradication of God from a society, a deterioration of sex being run by women, or actually really being run by men. And then of course, weak men, because what do they want to protect? There's nothing to protect. The girl you love is seen naked by everybody online. You're telling me men want to fight? What's there to fight? When beauty has value, men are stronger. When beauty deteriorates itself, men are weak.
Yeah, 'cause there's
And it takes a
nothing
man
like-
that really understands God and right and wrong to do something
let's
right.
get a little bit into that, because to me, in this specific type of conversation, not exactly thinking about what evil and all the highest good is, but in this specific conversation, what is good and what is bad is based on what you want out of life.
If you're surviving, yes. If I truthfully wanted things out of life, I'd lie to you. But is lying good or bad?
Well, is that really what you want? You want a relationship that's based on
if whatever
lies?
is
No,
good
it's
for
not.
me, and I keep that as long as I can, then I'm performing good. That's not how I see goodness. I don't think you see goodness as that at all. I think that goodness is relative to awareness and people's capacity.
Exactly. So wouldn't it be safe to just have somebody chase that desire until they get tired of whatever it is that they're experiencing in that moment, and then they have an awakening into a higher state of consciousness? Because people are doing what they want because they believe that is going to get them the result that they want.
So who's telling them those things that they believe that will get them the result that they want?
Probably society, or some type of like indoctrination from the system, whatever you may call it. Where are you supposed to look otherwise? You have to hit yourself hard enough sometimes until you get tired of being on the floor.
I do believe that, yeah, God's kindness is overwhelming and it endures forever. Because if people realized how there are these moments where they wake up, and it could be that one day that glass vase that was blocking the hole in the foundation of your home fell, and you see the hole and it's staring back into you. Those are the kindest moments in your life, where you lose your job, where you get physically injured, where you go through a breakup.
Yeah.
That's where we wake up. That's how I woke up. You know, like, I read the Bible my whole life. I can't say it was that.
Yeah.
I could say that was a foundation laid out for me. But truth be told, there's an aspect of ourself that seeks the strongest object so that we can shatter.
I like that.
And then we place ourselves back together voluntarily this time. I
If
think
you're
that's the
strong
act of
enough.
love. If you're strong enough, yeah.
And
But
if
you need a
you're-
foundation, right?
So that's the scary part. What is your foundation?
Well, my foundation is a biblical foundation. I truthfully believe in things like family, truth, growth. Those are pretty much all the things. And individuality above all, right? And our deep connection to God that we're not separate from. Those are all things that I believe in. And that was my foundation that allowed me to hit that hard surface, shatter like glass, and voluntarily put it back together. Because I was unconscious. No matter how great my foundation is, people still go, great guy. Why do things still suck? Because there's not a level of consciousness behind it. How can I actually realize any of the things that I am? Intention. The choice to show up for that life now. This is the foundation that people need to have if they want to have a relationship, because then they wouldn't just look as women as something to conquer. They would look at them as something to protect. And they would also look at themselves as something to access in order to not just satisfy the mother, but the wife. And it's constantly evolving. There's so much being asked of people, especially if they're willing to communicate. Think about how far you can go with a strong foundation, especially with somebody who wants to see their own heights. There's nothing you can't do together. There will be things you have to let go of. Us will have to change along the way. And that's the whole point. We are in pursuit of something so much bigger, so much greater. That is elevated consciousness, isn't it? More than this.
So the only way to get there, both people being willing to let go of past versions of themselves to become a new version that they might not know that much about, and with mutual trust, eventually form something together with both masculine and feminine energy.
Yes, and it needs to be so deeply
confined.
tested. Like, I mean this. There's a lot of people that go, oh, honey, you're right. And then they shut the up for the rest of the relationship. What I do believe is a serious problem here is that there's this like beating each other mentality going on right now between men and women, when really you should deeply consider each other, because that might be your partner. And that opinion may be the most valuable thing that you ever heard. So this isn't so much just about going like, okay, I found the right guy. He can tell me how this works. Sure, let's say he tells you how it works. You guys both agree that you have the strength to walk away from it, because it shouldn't go against you. How could that be a productive relationship? If it costs you who you are, by definition, it's a shit relationship.
Yeah, and you need to walk away as soon as possible.
And you need to walk away as soon as possible, because either who you are is not compatible with what you want, which you should ask, or there's a deficiency in your character or an insecurity that needs to be confronted. But
Or
that
both.
can also be done in the midst of a relationship. You
Yeah.
could do it if you're
Yeah.
a vulnerable enough communicator, if you're honest enough person.